of the issues we have over here, I think, well, Alan is the exception that proves the rule. But looking at Andrew and myself, there's a certain age profile to surveyors in this country. Hopefully, as I say, hopefully there's a few like Alan coming into the industry. But is that an issue that you have?
Well, like Les, I teach classes to incoming home inspectors as well. So I see a broad spectrum. I see people who want to retire from maybe construction and kind of phase into this. I see people changing careers. I don't know the percentage of younger people moving into it. I haven't seen grow tremendously. I think it's kind of consistent. But across the broad spectrum of ASHI, the national, when I've been to the conferences, I've definitely seen a lot more younger people coming into the business, which is good. I think so, right? You guys agree from being from the inspection worlds, right? You've seen a lot of younger guys.
Yeah, you see a lot of guys in the some 20s, 30s, which you don't really see it at least in our ASHI group. You don't see very many guys in that age bracket. Most of the guys are 50s, late 40s, 50s, 60s, some even older.
Yeah, I mean the big core of the guys getting into it by the time I've gotten to them, they're all contractors that have bad backs, bad knees. They don't want to lift, stuff anymore. So that's where they want to go. Yeah, and then you get the other guys who barely know what a hammer is, and they think they're going to walk around with a clipboard, and they're done once they get out.
Well, it's funny you mentioned engineers before, Les, because I've been in 2 houses recently, so we get to go to a lot of houses that other inspectors have been to, and there's problems. So we get to go in and I had 2 engineers recently who went into 2 different houses and called out some items which were not appropriate and missed items, and deals fell through, and there's issues going on. So just because you're an engineer doesn't mean you're necessarily qualified to do it. So that's always a caveat we have as well. And this has always been and I am engineer, but there's always been a little bit of a friction between a home inspector and engineers, because the home inspectors feel they're, a little bit below when people say, I want to have an engineer, but you could be a home inspector doing this for 15, 20 years and have excellent experience. And, that works out well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to go on what John said, I can go on another small story. I have a friend who's a musician, and he worked part-time at Grumman's, and he actually went to school years ago, and he got an engineering degree, and his job was in wiring the left wing of the F-14 fighter pilot. And he did that for years. Grumman went out of business, and with his engineering degree of experience wiring that plane wing, he can go out and do a home inspection now under the licensing.
Because he's an engineer.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So it's a misnomer a lot of times.
So if you want your house to fly right, he's the guy to get.
Right.
Exactly. No, and Andrew knew, because he came with us to see the flood houses that we deal with a lot down here. And this is kind of where my company and me and Wes and I specialize a lot in flood zone work. And if you're inspecting a house that's been flooded out, there's a lot of extra facets that you got to look for and need to know about. So this particular engineer went in and I said to the homeowner, did he ask you about the electrical? Did he ask you about this, that? And then none of it came up during the course of the home inspection. So, it's not a proper service that people are paying for, unfortunately. Trying to find a way to remedy that, but I'm not quite sure where to go with that yet.
So in terms of, it was an interesting point. In terms of oversight of people, home inspectors doing the job. So presumably a home inspector does not have to be a member of ASHI. He can be independent of any other organization or association, presumably.
Yes.
So is there oversight in any way of the quality of reports?
Pass your test, take your continuing education classes to keep your credits, you're good to go.
Yeah, unless you had some kind of
snags,
amazing problem where somebody reports you to what we have, the Department of State over here is one who basically monitors home inspectors. And I have never heard of them going out and removing or suspending anybody's license, and unless you have in 15 years that we've been doing this, right? Les, I haven't heard of anybody being reprimanded. No. Yeah. So I think there's really a lack of oversight.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you bring up that thing, because I've been involved in it before the licensing, and so is John. And with ASHI, I joined ASHI in 1998, and it was the biggest it ever was. It was up to like 9,000 members at the time. And then as soon as licensing creeped in, the numbers went down and down and down. Because when me and my dad used to go out and do the home inspections, people asked us, "Oh, what are your qualifications?" You couldn't say your license, so we joined the ASHI and said, "Here we go, we're part of association." But now since the licensing came around, people, they just took the test, which wasn't hard, and they say, "Oh, hey, I'm licensed by New York State." And nobody needed ASHI anymore. So that's what we're actually fighting for, to say this is what you need, because we have a high criteria to keep on quality, high standard, yeah.
Did you get many issues of claims against inspectors? Is that a big worry with your insurance and just general?
You hear stories,
I'm sorry to step in. Yeah, I mean, it definitely happens, and certainly, like, I think Les alluded to that before. If you go out and you really don't know what you're doing, the claims are going to come back, and that's where we're finding issues with people, and that's why people come and go in this business a lot. If you've been around a long time, you go to the meetings we have, you participate in meetings like this, you learn what to do, how to inspect, how to write your reports to minimize that potential liability. And I think Les and I and Wes, we've been, I'm going to knock on wood, right? Here we go. Pretty good for a number of years now, because we do a very thorough report, just like you guys, I'm sure, do.
Yeah, I mean, I had one, but I got through it. And my father had one, and it was latent stuff behind a wall. I had somebody trying to sue me for $40,000 a couple of years ago, because they said that I never reported water damage behind a basement wall. It was ridiculous. And the pictures, when my attorney got to it, brought the report over, it showed the warped walls. I actually reported that there was water damage, but they said, "Well, you didn't tell them it's behind the wall." I said, "I can't see it."
Can't see it, can't say it.
Yeah, so that went out the wash.
Interestingly, we had a case last week here against a surveyor. He's been retired. He did the survey in 2011. He was a member of RPSA, and the award against him was £750,000. So like a million plus dollars.
Yeah.
But I mean, and he was, and interestingly, Les, what you say there, because most of that was because he didn't report things he couldn't possibly have seen. But they went to the High Court, and the judgment went against him. But it may have, significant sort of outcomes for surveyors, because, if we're going to be, claimed against for things that we couldn't possibly see, where do you stop in putting? One of the problems we have is traditionally a lot of surveyors have put a lot of caveats and exclusions in their reports, which makes the reports pretty valueless. When you say, "I can't do this, I can't tell you that, I'm not going to tell you this, I'm not going to tell you that." I mean, is that a problem that you've faced?
Go ahead, Wes.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, we actually I took a class last week with Alan Carson, who's one of our well-known members here in North America, about report writing, and we were covering that specific aspect. It was funny you said that, Alan, because he was saying a lot of the information you put into these reports, even though now it's kind of crept in, like you said, devalues the report now, because you have all these exceptions that you're not actually inspecting for. So he says, more like, just say, if there's a problem, call it out, tell them what to do, and move on. But the way the industry has kind of evolved is we do have to be very cautious in how we write those reports, anticipating problems. And I think a lot of this goes to your experience when you're out there inspecting and reading the people you're dealing with, and kind of interpreting what they're saying, and maybe some of the concerns that are coming up, and even the parents, if they're there when we're doing the inspection, and kind of anticipating that, and maybe changing the report writing a little bit for each individual. But yeah, we try and, if there's a structural problem, call it out, direct it to the person. But to your point, how do you say that now? I'm saying I can't see the entire basement because it's finished, right? And I can't get into your attic because that's closed off. So I think we have to, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, could you tell us how much you actually pay for insurance and what it covers?
Les, what are you paying?
I've been paying $1,800 for the last few years. We mostly use now like the same insurance company, and when my father delegated that job to me years ago to take care of the insurance stuff, it basically, and I don't know how it runs by you, our premiums are basically set by what our gross revenue per year. They don't care how many we do. It's just what's your gross revenue per year. So that's basically how it's run. And basically under my is $1,800. I have $500,000 in liability. I do EFIS inspections. I don't do mold. I do termite inspections. So that's basically what I get with mine.
Yeah, we're similar price range for that. You know,
Yeah.
we have over here, we're required to have general liability insurance, and then we actually add something called professional liability insurance on top of that. And that brings us up to probably the range of prices in about $1,800.
Alan, you do sort of damp surveys on top of your regular surveys. Does that push up your premiums?
No. It's quite fortunate. The only thing really that would push my premiums up, which I was going to ask you guys about, was valuation, which is something I don't do. I know, Alan, you don't get involved in that. Is that so? Are you involved at all in the valuation of these properties, or is it purely just, you know, the condition side that you're focused on?
We don't do assessing. So they actually have people that do assessing as far as property values.
Are those job roles kept completely separate, or they ever merged?
Totally separate profession. We don't do value. We just do assessment of the properties.
There's a lot of people in our job, and that's their background. They've come from valuation, and that's how they become surveyors. Us in RPSA, there's a few of us who are slightly different to that. But yeah, but no, that's what would really push my PI up, so I don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm paying about, I think, what have I paid this year? I think I paid about $1,200 for my insurance, and I've got £500,000 of cover. So, and on a turnover of my own private business is about $120,000, something like that. That's just the bit I do, you know. So relatively small turnover. But that's my, you know. But in a way, you know, looking at this judgment that was handed out last week, you know, one thinks, well, actually, you know, maybe that's not enough.
Yeah, that's some judgment.
Yeah, that's tremendous. I have not heard of anything like that over here. To that
Crazy.
Thank you.
No, and in fact, I'm in touch with the particular surveyor. He did retire a few years ago, and I'm just waiting to hear back from him because I want to sort of try and do a summary of how it was. I mean, I think that you know, one of the things, and I'm sure that you do the same, is when you do a report, you invest a lot of yourself in that report. You know, it's not just a job. You know that you're helping somebody make an important decision about the next stage of their lives in buying a house. You put an awful lot. And when somebody raises a query, a complaint, a suggestion that you haven't done the job right, it sort of gets you at the heart, doesn't it? I mean, it's, you know, I don't know. I mean, you guys feel the same?
Oh, I do, definitely. It annoys you because, like you said, we're always trying to do the right thing by people, and sometimes you feel that it's not appreciated, especially when you get to that extreme.